All right, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. You know, Greg's not only is he a police officer and a state representative, football coach. And I find myself jealous for the first time in a long, long time of Travis Kelce. Did you hear the story?
Because of Taylor Swift?
Yeah.
Ouch.
I mean, is that – come on. She's the most powerful mega superstar on the planet. He is a slug. I like him.
I
right?
like him too.
But he's dumb as a rock, I think. And I'm going to give this relationship until Christmas.
Well, yeah.
Then he's done. Because she's not dumb.
No, she's not dumb. But I like Travis Kelce. These NFL players, I've been a Patriots fan my whole life.
Yeah.
But my favorite player of all time is J.J. Watt.
Okay.
And the reason being, J.J. Watt was a dominant football player, no doubt about it. But what that guy did off the field was incredible.
Right.
And those are things that impressed me. And Travis Kelce, dumb as a rock.
Yeah.
But he's getting hit in the head a lot too. It's like Gronk.
Right.
But Kelce does do a lot off the field if you follow what he does.
Okay.
His brother does too.
He was really funny on Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
But I only go by like the way he acted after they won the Super Bowl. He just acted like I don't know, like kind of like a moron.
Well, he's an overgrown child.
No, he kind of is.
Yeah.
I guess that's why I'm a little jealous because I kind of see myself as Travis Kelce.
An overgrown child.
Yeah, that too.
Your wife doesn't listen to this show, does she?
She wouldn't care. She could care less, right? I'm sure she would give me the free pass. Go take a shot.
Yeah, go ahead. Have fun.
All right. So I have a question for you to start out before we get into. It's sort of they're related, but one of our listeners has been asking for a long time and never really getting a satisfactory answer about where the ballots are actually printed, where they're inventoried and stored, and how they're I mean, I know that's a complicated, but where are they printed at least?
So I can get updated information, but last I knew there was 2 companies that were approved to print ballots for Connecticut. One is in New Britain, the other one was in Massachusetts, and the name of their private companies. Their name escapes me at the moment, but they're printed by private companies, and it's all overseen by Secretary of State's office. So right now, Stephanie Thomas oversees all of that, and then down to the town halls, the town clerks do.
Yeah.
So.
All right. You have a lot of faith in that system?
I have a lot of faith in our systems as it is. Am I saying there's no voter fraud? No. I have a lot of faith in our gun laws. It doesn't mean we're not going to have gun crime.
Mm.
You know what I mean? But the people that do things wrong should be prosecuted. But we can't revamp it. We'll never come up with a system that is completely foolproof that somebody can't do something illegal. So what's happening down in Bridgeport, for example, where all bad things happen in the state of Connecticut, by the way.
Right.
What that person did potentially shouldn't violate any laws. That's the real problem, right? So it's not like, like Stephanie Thomas says, it's a couple of bad actors and an uninformed electorate. Well, that's a terrible answer. That's not true at all.
Right.
Yes, you have a couple of bad actors, but you have a system that makes what they did permissible. That's the real problem.
I thought Connecticut you couldn't harvest.
Well, but
and deliver multiple ballots.
Well, show me where it says that.
Oh, that was my assumption.
That's the thing, and that's so. During COVID, the Democrats put these ballot boxes outside, and they never went away.
Right.
And the problem is that there's no chain of custody to the ballot. So when we passed early voting last year, there's a chain of custody. There's even if you mail it in, if you mail in somebody else's ballot, that's a crime because you can't use the mail to do that. Right. So these things are listed, and the real problem is that, and the reason Stephanie Thomas, and I actually like Stephanie Thomas. She's my former House colleague.
Right.
Very nice lady, very responsive when I call her for something. She's great as a person, no doubt about it. But I think she's trying to cover some tracks here and try to provide some cover for the Democrats because this is what happened. They created a system that allowed for this to happen, and that's the difference. So. When Democrats say, well, Republicans create a system that allows for gun violence. No, we don't. No, we don't. We've never passed a law that says you can shoot somebody at a school. Never.
Right.
So Republicans, we don't permit these things. We pass laws that protect rights, and then people who do things illegally, we believe in prosecuting them, which is, I know, a noble cause for you guys on the other side of the aisle. I don't do that. But that's really what this whole thing boils down to.
So What do you think will happen? I mean, you guys are getting into special session here pretty soon. I would think that someone's going to raise the issue about these ballot boxes during.
Yeah, we are.
Okay.
So special session tomorrow. A couple of things are on the agenda, right? So first off, Nora Danhe is a Supreme Court justice candidate, or not candidate, nominee from the governor's office. She came through judiciary last week, and I'm going to tell you the truth. I voted yes on her because she impressed me significantly. I looked at her backup, and I'm like, you know, it kind of just doesn't sit well with me when we put someone on the Supreme Court that hasn't been an AJ or a superior judge or something like that. And look, it's a little bit of a different job. I get it, but you know, it just doesn't sit well with me. So I'm like, you know, I don't think I'm going to vote yes on her. But then I listened to her intently, and I don't know how to describe this to people except that, you know, you've been a cop for 21 years. Integrity from people just emanates from them. And what she demonstrated last week was a massive integrity, no doubt about it, and a true understanding of the rule of law, a respect for the rule of law, and an understanding of her role as a justice, not as an advocate. And that's what was so important to me. And, you know, a little caveat, a little frosting on the cake was, you know, she comes from the DOJ, where, you know, she's a very anti-criminal, pro-law enforcement, law and order type of an attorney, and would be that sort of a justice where she recognizes the importance of securing the Constitution, but understands that there are times when government, you know, needs to do things when people are committing crimes against other people. And so for that, she actually got a raving yes from me. I started texting some of my colleagues. I'm like, hey, FYI, I'm voting yes on her. And of course, you know, other people are like, oh, you are? Okay. So I think she'll fly through tomorrow. So that's one thing that we're doing. Yep. But there will be some no votes on, you know, some Republicans, you know, are just, they'll vote no on her because she was nominated by Governor Lamont. Some of them will vote no because she hasn't been a judge before, which I think is a somewhat legitimate no vote.
Right.
And there's some from the other side that say, well, actually have been outward and say, I'm not voting for her because she's white. Literally said that.
Right.
That's not me. That's
well, that was actually part of the panel I was on Sunday. One of the criticisms was she's white, and one of the, you know, the mayor of Bloomfield said, yeah, well, she's white. Yeah, it's no good. I mean, she didn't say wasn't for her, but it was so disappointing that she was white.
Yeah. So that's them, and you're going to get that. But then you have some that say, well, you know, she's been involved in prosecuting people, so we're not voting for her. Right. Okay. Yeah. So she'll get a few no votes, and they'll say these things or whatever, and we'll move on from that. But then the other thing that's going on is we are moving the primary date for presidency in the state of Connecticut up to the beginning of April. What happens is, and you know this, right? By the time the Republican primary, you know, we in Connecticut, like this year, would be likely just Republicans. I don't know that the Democrats are going to have a primary, what they're going to do. But, you know, this year it may be Republicans, but certainly 4 years now it could be Democrat again. You know, when the primary comes around, by the time Connecticut residents and voters get to weigh in the primary, I mean, the cake is baked, you know. So it's a little frustrating. So we're coming back to, you know, I don't know if that's what they call Super Tuesday or whatever, where that's, you know, everybody's doing it. But that is the place where we, the Republicans, can run amendments to suspend those ballot boxes, you know, indefinitely. You know, Vin says, well, we should do it until they get it sorted out. Well, I think we should do it indefinitely. I mean, we don't need them.
Right.
Because we already have an absentee ballot process that we had pre-COVID, right, where you could apply for an absentee ballot. You didn't get one sent to your house, right? You could go down to town hall and say, hey, you know, I can't vote on that day for I'm sick, or I'm you know, I'm handicapped, or I'm gonna be out of the country, or whatever. And you go and apply for your absentee ballot. Now, with our new law, you can actually go down, you know, sometime 14 days, 13 days before the election and vote in person early. So we don't need those ballot boxes. There's nobody can tell me a need for them. But right. you could tell me a need for them in COVID because you couldn't come in the building. I didn't agree with them, but I had to acknowledge that there was a need for sure, but not now. So they need to go indefinitely. So we can run amendments on that. The other problem that's going on tomorrow is this. So in Connecticut, we have one of the cleanest election finance programs in the country. And I just want to talk briefly about it, if it's all right, because people may not understand this, right? So I run for state rep. The way that I finance my campaign is through a citizen selection program, it's called. So what happens is Greg Howard, goes around in my district and I say, hey, neighbor Joe, I'm running again. Would you care to donate to my campaign? And if he says yes or whatever, he fills out a form either, and you can do this electronically. We use Anadop, but you can do this electronically. He fills out a form. You're a lobbyist, and it's not a ton of questions, but just a few. And then he makes a donation, and then I have to get 150 donations from the towns I represent. Doesn't necessarily have to be in district. So it has to come, in my case, those donations have to come from someone in Ledyard, Stonington, or North Stonington, right? And I have to get 150 from within the town. And then I have to meet, and it changes every year. I think last year was like $5,800 or something like that.
Right.
But I had to get the $5,800, and 150 of those donations had to come from within the town. So what ends up happening is most of your campaign donors are people you represent, right? So you don't have a lot of outside interest. Certainly, yeah, my parents live in Wesley. They donate to my campaign. Yeah, right. So once you hit the mark, then the government, the state gives you whatever the rest of 28. So I'd have to look at the numbers, something like 28, 30,000, somewhere in there, that they give you, and that's what you can use to finance your campaign, to buy signs, T-shirts. We pay, for radio ads or whatever.
Yep.
But you have to, but it's very, very clean. So tomorrow, the state could tell you every single person who's ever donated to my campaign, how much they've donated, and where it got spent. If you apply for an absentee ballot and I sent you a nice letter saying, hey, you applied for an absentee ballot, I have to show that I bought that envelope, the stamp, everything. It's very, very clean. So Senate Dems, and what bothers me the most about this is the blatant and transparent arrogance of corruption that you can see in the Senate Democrats in this. And I haven't even actually seen the actual legislation because they've held on to it, but who has seen it is the governor's office, who has said, and the executive director of our state Enforcement Elections Commission, so who has said this is a problem. In fact, I'll read you part of the letter that he wrote, and this is a nonpartisan person. This is not Republicans. This is from him. The proposed language aggressively erodes the bargain made between the government and the taxpayers with regard to the CEP, which is Citizens Election Program, and the financial support of candidates. Currently, candidates qualify for public grants by demonstrating support from voters within their district. Candidates must do all of their own fundraising. As a result, most contributions used to qualify for public grants, it's taxpayer money,
right,
are from the people the candidates will actually represent. Under the language now being proposed, candidates will not have to do their own fundraising. The only in-district requirement for a candidate for state rep will be donations from 150 people, or because the minimum is $5, or as little as $750 of the $5,800 needed to qualify. 88% of the money a candidate uses to qualify for a public grant could be solicited for them by any super PAC, dark money group, corporation, or other special interest group, groups that may hold views that no voter in Connecticut supports, without any campaign financing filings regarding the amount spent by those groups. It also can be done in complete coordination with the candidate. So what that basically says is, and it goes so far as, let's just say I hired Elci Consulting, right? So I'm going to send out a bunch of mailers, and I hire Elci Consulting, and you help me design my mailers and put the wording and the pictures and whatnot, and I pay you $20,000 to send mailers out to my district, right? You then pay, I don't know, Vistaprint, $10,000 for the printing. I cannot just report I spent $20,000 to Elci. No, I have to know where that $20,000 went. So the $10,000 that to Vistaprint, that has to be known too. I mean, it goes really deep. Could you do things corruptly? Sure, but it's really, really, really strong. What they're trying to do for one company that the Democrats use for their online, campaign financing, the state is working to bring that company into Connecticut compliance, but the company doesn't want to. So what the Democrats are doing is they're using their majority in the Senate to just completely revamp and undermine our entire clean program simply to help out a vendor that they use, and do not my decision, the executive director's decision, significant damage to what we currently have and how clean it is. And that's annoying to begin with, and it's frustrating to hear. What alarms me the most is that we have reached a point in the state of Connecticut where Bob Duff and Marty Looney can sit there and say, you know what? We are so untouchable that we can do this in broad daylight. And that should be concerning to every single voter in the state of Connecticut, that they have gone to that point because they know, and I commented off the air when I came in here, I thought that lead play this morning that I missed earlier last week was phenomenal.
Thanks.
The people in the state of Connecticut, when we talk about revolution, we don't have to take up arms and store. All we have to do is be informed and show up on the right Tuesday to take this whole thing back. Our forefathers set that up for us. People talk about we need the Second Amendment to fight our government. Well, I mean, the government has F-35 jets. Can't keep track of them, but they have them, right? We don't need to. We could take all that over tomorrow simply by filling in a bubble on a piece of paper, provided we have secure elections, which in Connecticut, I think, but for those outside ballot boxes, I think we do have a pretty secure election process.
I'm a little lost about this vendor. So explain to me how that...
It's in the weeds, but basically, the way it works is, and I don't use that vendor. Obviously, the Democrats do. But when you go to, when I campaign and I start fundraising, and you go to my fundraising page, you have all these questions need to be answered, and it's all documented and reported. All of that has to do with the user interface and some back IT stuff that I don't really understand, that it all translates into what used to be a piece of paper with your signature on it and whatnot electronically, so we know who you are. And it's above my head, the IT part of it. But the company that the Democrats use, it doesn't want to spend the money to bring it into compliance with the state. And
so this is a vendor that keeps track of the money that's donated.
Yeah, it'd be like a Venmo, right? So
right.
to put in something, so like if you have Venmo,
Gotcha.
right? Yeah, so that's what it is,
All right.
and it's the blatant, and that's what I find. That's the part that alarms me the most. That we've gotten to that point in the state of Connecticut where these two guys specifically, and I don't know that I would say that about Matt Ritter or Jason Rojas, to be honest with you. In fact, it wouldn't shock me one bit if that bill never sees the House floor tomorrow,
Right.
because I know Vinny's gone to war on it with Matt already.
Right.
I was on the phone with Vinny for a while on Saturday, and we the Republicans have got to stop this. So if that means that he has to go to Matt and say, "Hey, you want to listen to Greg talk for 16 hours about Nora Danahy?" Because he will, then I will, and I'll still vote yes. But we'll just take up time. If this is what you want to do, I will stand there for 16 hours, and that's just me. There's 53 of us.
Right.
Okay, so we'll do that, and then after 5 or 6 days of you putting your own caucus through the ringer, governor's not signing it anyway. Do you really want to do that, Matt? Or can we just get back to normal here and you could tell Bob Duff and Marty where to go?
State Representative Greg Howard here with us in the studio. By the way, just a side note, if you are just tuning in or like what you hear and you want to hear it again, I will throw this up on my YouTube page as we are videotaping Greg this morning. So we'll put that up a little bit later on so you can watch it again and take a look at some of the things. Now, if you have extra money left over, so let's say you raise your, was it 5,000 or something like that you have to raise?
Yeah.
And then they give you 20, let's say so you have 35,000 total in your kitty or something like that. Now, you can continue to raise money or you can spend your own money.
No.
In addition, you can't.
Nope.
You can't raise any more money?
Nope.
You can spend your own money, though.
Nope.
How did Needleman spend almost $1 million in his campaign against
He didn't
Brendan
do SEP
Saunders?
funding. He didn't do SEP funding.
Okay, so you're done. Once you get that, you're done.
Yeah.
All right, so and then any other money that comes in goes where?
So there is none. You
Well,
can't,
let's say somebody writes, let's say you're running, you've reached your threshold.
and you write me a
someone
check, I
hears
give it
you on
back
the
to
air,
you.
you send it right back?
Yep. Say
Okay.
appreciate it, but unfortunately I can't do it. And that happens.
Okay.
But you know what else happens? People will say, okay, hey, you know what I'll do? I'll write you a check to Greg Howard, and you got a lot going on. Just take your wife out to dinner or something like that. And I always say, listen, I appreciate it, but you know what? We actually don't need it. Listen, all I really hope, if you really want to help me out, rather than the $100, can you call 15 friends of yours that are Democrat voters and that just educate them about me? If you could do that, I'd appreciate it. So that's really the way that you handle things, because listen, I've said this when I got into running in 2020. We sat down as a family, and I said to my boys, I said, listen, I'm going to go try to change this world, and maybe I will, maybe I won't, but one thing is for sure, it will not change me, and I will not. I've come too far, Lee, in 43 years to let a $100 check derail my integrity.
Of course.
I would never do it. But That's why SEP is it's really a great system, and it gives every person in the state of Connecticut an opportunity to go. And you can get SEP funding for governor too.
Yeah.
Of course, you want to get somebody who's self-funding for $10 million. It's tough, but
yeah. All right, kid. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it as always. Good luck tomorrow. What time you guys start?
Noon.
Noon. All right. Get to sleep in. All right. We'll be right back, everybody. Stick around. You're listening again to 94.9 News Now and Stimulating Talk.